I just did that super fun thing when you think you're recording something and then you're not. Hey there, I'm Ash from Traditional Astrology, and this isn't an awkward intro. You're an awkward intro. So I'll first just talk about Venus square Neptune out of context as an aspect. I want to share a little bit about how it is as a natal aspect, although a loose one, still relevant, and a funny story to share. And then I just been reflecting on the transit of Venus square Neptune. First time it happened was May 3rd as Venus was moving forward, now retrograding. It went exact yesterday, May 20th, and then again as she moves forward out of her retrograde shadow. Um, she will make the aspect again on July 27th. Sorry. Just going to read a paragraph about Venus from On the Heavenly Spheres by Helena Avalar and Louis Ribeiro, just to save us all time because this Gemini moon can waste it. So, like Jupiter, its tempered nature leads to fertility and growth. Venus is the most luminous planet in the sky, representing beauty, grace, softness, and delicacy. It is known as the Lesser Benefic. Venus symbolizes the principle of love, both conceptually and in the carnal sense of the term. Friendship, accord, fraternity, and sympathy are all under its jurisdiction, as is passion, sensuality, sexuality, dating, and marriage. Another aspect of Venus's expression is the playful side of life, games, entertainment, and indulgences and pleasures of all types. In its negative aspect, it represents the distortion of all those facets. Thus, it equally indicates luxury, superficiality, and vanity. Then Neptune, the ancients didn't even know about Neptune. And actually, what I think is so funny and true to its signification, like Neptune was apparently found like twice at least, or three times before it was like officially recorded as found. So like people were seeing it, but not registering what it was. And when I want to see where someone is confused or just kind of like really ignorant, like not like it's bad, but it's just we all have our blind spots, right? So if I'm looking for where someone doesn't even know they don't know, I'll look for I'll look for Neptune. So in modern astrology, they assign Neptune as the ruler of Pisces, and growing up, I kind of thought like, are you? I was a little offended, kind of with the significations of like just being so diffuse and like prone to drug abuse and all these like really what I perceived as like weak Neptune things. It was a little insulting as a Pisces, though I do understand why, fully understand why. And then we have the square. When I think about the hard aspects being oppositions and squares, if you can imagine us having a fight, I don't know what you did, but I'm mad. So mad I could attack. But if we're in this position, this is like 180 degrees, it's a standoff. And in this position, we would have as much time as we could, as much time as possible to respond. If one of us were to make a move, we could get prepared or ready ourselves. But more likely, it'll just be like that tense, I've got my eye on you, you got your eye on me, like direct line of sight. And then if you're now in a 90-degree position, now you're in my peripheral vision. You're closer to me now, and like less like there's just so much more like stress and like potential for conflict. There's just like a what is it, volatility? Yeah, that's a better word. I do think it's really helpful to imagine yourself in the position of the planets to help kind of imagine why it's a hard aspect, be it an opposition, standoff, or the volatile square. The cliche description of Venus square Neptune is the rose-colored glasses. You could even memify it and think of that dog sitting in the burning room or the burning house with the hat on, just like, I'm fine, it's fine. Either way. It's very much that. Where, like, despite very clear red flags, there's like a willful, like, wishing or like holding on to like the idealized view of someone. Yeah, my experience of it natally, it's loose, though I can say that I'm more often relating to somebody as their potential versus the reality. And you know, when you're in like a helping kind of profession, that's kind of like a good thing in ways, but then in dating, it's not helpful. And like, you know, we ought to be able to give each other like benefit of the doubt, though really, like, you know, you have enough bad dates that, okay, gotta watch this. And even then I still have like a hard time with just picking decent people. Like I'm responding to something other than like what would be good. I don't know. Like an example being a couple of years ago when I was still using Grindr. I went on a date with a guy and like was so into him that like we didn't hook up the first date, which means a lot. That's basically proposing right there, right? Just kidding. Though yeah, I'm like excited about this guy. I'm sharing with my best friend at the time, and I'm like fully daydreaming the whole thing, right? And we're already living on the acreage, you know, golden shepherd of a mixed breed of a golden shepherd somehow, I don't know, shepherd mix. But just like so there. And not in the present, or just like I'm showing my friend and he's, with hindsight, I see now that he's thinking things over, trying to he's tense about something. 10 minutes later he just kind of bursts out that like, oh, that guy does meth. And like, what? What? How do you know that? And like, you know, these two have partied and played together, and it sounded more of an active thing than a past thing, really. And like knows that he has a regular habit or use of meth, and that it's so common in the gay community here that like I haven't done it myself, thanks to a conversation I had with a client of mine when I was a massage therapist, and him saying, you know, it had been like over 10 years for this person, but just thinking about it, there was a craving for it. And my Venus square Neptune ass, I was just like, like hearing that, like, I can't, like, knowing something is that tempting at all times. But, you know, is it okay for him? You know, he's still cute. I still kind of want to date him. Like, I'm going through this, like, waffling. And he, you know, I bring it up with a guy, and he's trying to reassure me that he has, like, a handle on it. And I believe him, but I don't want to be there when you don't have a handle on it, kind of a thing. And that was a hard one for me, because like, everything else, and it's like, you know, yeah, anyway, it's a Venus square Neptune trying to understand like very basic red flags. To prevent this being a 25-minute video, I will just sort of cut to the point of Venus square Neptune can have the impact of really kind of jostling your self-esteem, your image of yourself, and And yeah, just confidence. Be mindful. Something I'm, you know, finally getting to work on, and actually just started seeing a counselor like around May 3rd, first week of May, in order to actually start working on like a lifetime of dysphoria, you know? So a couple ways Venus square Neptune I think is currently showing up. First is the very obvious, like trying to reopen the economy, and like everything's fine. We just have to follow these very, I do believe in the advice that's being given, though. Like I'm just so twisted, and there are some people who are very much like, I don't need a mask, and let's go to the beach, and let's make out, and let's whatever. um, because the second wave of a pandemic is a thing, and it's so like, been so in quarantine for so long, and we're all just like aching to get out for sure. But to do it safely, it's like there's some you're having to like willingly kind of give up what you were just staying home to prevent, like Neptune, ruling illusion and mirage and all that mysticism. Kind of Hollywood glamour tends to also fall under Neptune, like as photography, those arts, where when you think about it, like, you're watching this, but it's not like I'm actually in front of you. I don't live in your computer. Sorry. But, it's like the mirage of me and you together, sort of a thing. Is very Neptunian. And so just thinking Hollywood, LA, it tends to be really cyclical, though we go through these moments of like, oh my god, that nice celebrity isn't nice. And so follow me on this one. I just want to talk about Ellen DeGeneres for a minute. And how, like, yes, there's been a new surge of stories about Ellen being awful to her crew and her just general disposition ever since Kevin T. Porter put out a call for stories about Ellen, saying that she's notoriously one of the most mean people in the industry, and him just getting like swamped with examples, and he ended up donating $600 to his local food bank just as like a way to spark some charity and get people kind of talking about something. Looking into it, like I was looking for a lot of examples, and just kind of like finding the dates of these articles would be like, oh, 2018, oh, and then like, oh, 2014, oh, and there are these clear examples that exist of, what I'm assuming is Ellen's honest, authentic self. And there's like, we've just been like Venus square Neptuning it, where we're just like, oh, like ignoring it. Just, oh, she's fine. It's fine. Like, she's still so kind. She says the nice things. We love her. She dances. She's cool. But like, oh, I just want to look at some of these examples just so I'm not like totally talking out of my ass. After working for Ellen for over 5 years, close friend left to have baby and found different job on a union network show with benefits, etc. Ellen begged her to return and then fired her after 1 week with no reason given, and then that friend having to struggle for a long time with a new baby and no benefits. Karen Kilgariff was her head writer for 5 years until the writer's strike. Karen wouldn't cross the picket line and was fired, and Ellen never spoke to her again. I looked into that as a fan of My Favorite Murder, and like, like Karen gave some like talking bits in defense of Ellen, so it's weird that she would get fired after that. This tweet was, I worked for Real Food Daily and served her and Portia at brunch. She wrote a letter to the owner and complained about my chipped nail polish. Not that it had landed in her plate, but that it was just on her hand, chipped. I had worked till closing the night before, and this was the next morning, and almost got her fired. Apparently, she has a sensitive nose, so everyone must chew gum from a bowl outside her office before talking to her, and if she thinks you smell that day, you have to go home and shower. Oh. Like Ellen DeGeneres ends every episode of her talk show with "Be kind to one another." In 2015, she even won the top spot in an online NBC News State of Kindness poll, which participants finding her nicer than other well-liked celebrities like Jennifer Aniston and Chris Pratt. And granted, like you couldn't touch her. You couldn't. You know, the thought of Dory being a turd is like sacrilege. The tweet storm from Kevin T. Porter were really like, you can't verify much of it. What's happening in reality is her crew of 30 people for over a month didn't hear anything from Ellen about their pay, about their future, about their benefits. And like, in the meanwhile, Ellen hires a non-union crew to help her produce her show from home. And like, really, and like the crew, I guess, only heard back recently after 40 days, and that they're only going to be receiving 40% of their income. I stopped watching the Ellen Show some years ago, and like didn't really put my finger on why until recently, like realizing like the basis of the humor on that show is cringe and like laughing at people being uncomfortable. And like that's not funny to me. Like that's just like awkward. And I just feel bad for these people, and then I'm like I get stressed because I can't do anything, so then I just like, but like meanwhile, like Ellen's like busting a gut. Like as a queer person, I get like I'm allowed to be disappointed. You know, like I'm allowed to have looked up to you and then change my mind based on who you're being. You know, like you're are the people we look up to should be under review. You should question if that's an appropriate person to emulate. And like I just get so upset.